So, with the addition of physical damage type, left a lot of people confused on what exactly and what it means for the other elements. Today we will look a little deeper into that, while going over all the elements for a refresher on what they do and how they act. So with that, we can begin. Like mentioned, I want to give you a refresher on all the elements so we can work physical into that. I want to let it be known, elements do not work like you would imagine they do in any other games. Where an element counter would do more damage than base damage, that isn't the case with Fortnite. You will always do 100% damage or less. So, let's start with a fire element. When being involved with fire husks, we know that shooting them with fire does 67% damage. Shooting them with nature does 25% damage. Shooting them with water does 100% damage. And shooting them with energy does 67 damage. Now, shooting them with a weapon that has physical on it will do 50% damage. Now, if you knew how elements work prior to this video, you would notice physical damage is exactly like just regular old damage was, and you would be correct. But we will touch on that later. Now moving along to nature husks. We know fire does 100% damage, nature does 67% damage, water does 25% damage, energy does 67% damage, and physical does 50% damage. Now let's do the water husks. Fire does 25% damage, nature does 100% damage, water does 67% damage, energy does 67% damage, and physical does 50% damage. Taking all that information in can be quite hard, but it isn't completely necessary to know all the percentages of each case. Rather, to only know at least two. Let's take fire and water. Fire we know is countered by water, which also means fire does less damage to water. Nature is countered by fire, which also means nature does less damage to fire. From the data we know energy does the same damage no matter what, along with physical. Though it's good to remember energy will do more damage than physical to elements across the board. So this leaves physical. Now as we realized before, physical is just a special name for regular old damage, though that isn't everything. As we know, having physical damage type yields higher percentages of damage to be put on top of the weapon's base damage. That doesn't mean it needs to be added prior, because the game works it out for you with damage numbers. What does this mean for physical damage, and wouldn't that make damage better to elemental husk more than energies, since the added damage makes them more equal? Well, no. If you noticed, even other elements have added percentages. This is to drive home the point the old system still has a part here. In an even matchup, energy will always outperform physical when involved with elemental husks. What this physical system does is it makes it where if your gun has an element, you aren't doing the same damage to a plain husk than a weapon without an element. What this creates is more counterplay and using the right gun for the right situation. Now I know, this is a lot to take in, but now you're left with, well, what do I do with this information? Since when I first was taught elements through YouTube, no one ever pointed me in the direction given the information. It was just regurgitation of information and nothing more. I want to help you out, so we aren't quite done here. As previously, it was always good to try and have a weapon for every element. Fire, nature, and water to do its purpose and counter its opposition. With energy, its purpose is to have middle ground with elements. While it's often looked at as a waste or no true purpose, it has its place. A weapon that has energy should always be one easy to make and high damage before elements are considered, that you would go to despite a husk's element. Those are the weapons you want to make energy. It is also good to have a weapon hard hitting for physical damage. Crit damage is something that seems to work great with physical damage. Since you aren't trying to consistently do damage across the board, you want something to take out regular husk with ease. So crit damage along with crit rating is a good combo with physical. Though with all that, it's truly up to you. Those are just what would be best given my experience and what I wish I knew when getting in to save the world. Now I know, like I said, this is a lot of information to take in such a short time span, but I wanted to make this video quick and educational while still giving you tips on what you should do with the information given in this video. So with that, I'll leave you to it. Leave a like, rating, comment, subscribe if you're new, and as always, I will see you in the next video. Peace out.
Every day in the morning, 2 a.m. yeah, I'm sipping and I'm zoning. Watch me move, watch me sway, watch me dip out. In a room full of girls I'm trying to dig out. I just broke all the banks and now I'm